Okay, so I'm going to go through and try to finish out all of these problems. Some of these I have enough room to solve here, and others I will have to actually switch to my normal board. But let's see how to answer some of these questions. First thing, for number 1, here's my recommendation. Write down what the zeros are. So this 0 is at -1, and this 0 is at 2. And as you can see, at this -1, that thing goes through, or that thing bounces, which means it has to be an even degree. Well, that thing goes through, so it has to be an odd degree. So let's see what thing has a 0 at -1 and bounces, or has an even degree. And let's see number 2 that goes through. Well, the first one, that's backwards. That 2 has an even degree, and that 1 has an odd degree, so that can't be right. This one looks like it checks out. Let's check the other choices. This one on C doesn't work because it has 3 zeros. That one, this one, and this one. Same thing over here, that has 3 zeros. So B has to be the correct answer. Let's look at this second one. This second one, we have a 0 at 2, and we have a 0 at 1. And they both bounce, so they both have to be even. Well, this one meets the requirements. This one doesn't because they're not both even. This one meets the requirements. And this one doesn't meet the requirements. Now we have to look to see if the zeros are in the right spots because they both bounce. Well, this one, 0, is at -1 and +2. But we wanted the zeros at -2 and +1, so that one actually fails. While C would be the correct choice. Let's look at the second one. We need to name the number of real zeros and the minimum degree of the polynomial. Well, the number of real zeros is how many times it crosses this axis right here. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. And this one would normally, we'd say that's 4, but as you can see, that spot bounces, so it's a degree 2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So we have 5 zeros. And then our degree is how many like highs and lows this thing has. So if we kind of look at the highs and lows, it has 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you take the highs and lows, which is 4, and then we add 1. So this has a degree 5. Okay? Let's try another one. Well, this one has 1, or for its zeros, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and none of them bounce, so we won't count any twice, so this is a degree 5. And then we count its up and down, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So its degree is 5. Oops. Okay, let's try this one. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And its degree would be 1, 2, 3 plus 1. So that would be a degree 4. This thing has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. And then it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 1 would be a 6th degree. A lot of times the number of zeros is the same as the degree. This one will have some imaginary zeros though, because it only has 1 0, but its degree is 1. 2, 3, 4 plus 1, so it's a degree 5. This has 2 real zeros because we could see that it bounces there. So its zeros is 2, but its degree would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 plus 1 would be 5. Okay. Then we can look here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So its degree is degree 5 again. And then we have 1, 2 zeros. And then this last one, we have a degree, or we have 1, 2 zeros, but each bounce. So we have 4 zeros, and then the degree is 1, 2, 3 plus 1, so the degree is also 4. Okay. That took a little bit, but that's how we get all the degrees. Let's graph some things. First thing when you graph, write down the zeros. So 0, 3, whoops, and -4. So the first thing that we do is we write down the degrees, and as you can see, what would make this thing 0? Well, that's 0. So anytime you have an x in front, that degree is, or that 0 is 0. Okay, now we're going to plot those points. So we got one right here. We got one right here at, whoops, -4. So one right here at -4. And then one right here at 3. Okay, the first thing that we have to decide is this thing going to go up or is this thing going to go down? And we do that by taking a really big negative number. If you put a really big negative number into -2, you get a positive. If you put a really big negative number and you square it, you get a positive. And if you put a really big negative number into this, you get a negative. So positive times a negative is negative, so this thing goes down. And then at -4, since this is an odd power, since it's got 1, this thing would go through. At 0, it's still a degree 1, so it would go through. And at 3, it's even, so it's going to hit that thing and it's going to bounce. So this is roughly what my graph would look like. Let's go to the second one. Again, this would have degree 0, -2, and 4. So let's plot those points. And as you can see, all the degrees of these things are 1, so everything would just go through. So the only thing we have to decide is where this starts. Does it start up here, or does it start down here? Well, let's plug in a big negative number. Well, that's negative, and that's negative. Well, negative times a negative is negative. Starts down here, loops up, loops back, goes through. Okay, last one. Well, that's a 2. And that's a -1. Let's graph those points. Okay. Again, we have to decide if it goes up and down. Well, if you plug in a big negative number, that's positive, and that's negative. At 1, since it's a degree 3, we're going to go through, and at 2 we're going to bounce. So these are the different graphs. Okay, let's get into some synthetic division. For number 5, whenever you divide, you need things to go from x to the third to x to the second to x to the first to x to the 0. If it doesn't go in that order, you have to fill it in. As you can see here, we go from x to the third to x to the first, so it skips one. So when I make this synthetic division, I'm going to have to add something in, which we're going to have to add in a 0x squared. When I look over here, my number I need to put in my box is 4. Then I'm going to put in 1, 0, because we had to add in that 0x squared, negative 13, and then negative 12. Now we're just going to do the synthetic division. The 1 carries down. 1 times 4 is 4. I get 4 right here. 4 times 4 is 16. I get 3, I get 3 right here. 4 times 3 is 12. And that would give me 0. My answer to this thing, because you can't leave your answer like this, that would be wrong. Your answer is, it starts 1 less than your biggest degree. So that would be x squared plus 4x plus 3. We know that this thing is a factor because the remainder is 0. So whenever your remainder is 0, this would be a factor.